It is certainly possible, and it is what the Ukrainians have said over and over. That is, all Russians have to leave Ukraine. They don't say it has to happen tomorrow or in the first phase. They say all Russians have to leave. This is what sovereignty is. This is territorial integrity. That's what they're after. Russians should not be rewarded for invading their neighbor. And they've been very clear. The Ukrainians have been very clear that in the end, they want total sovereignty of their nation, all the Russians out. Now, that said, the prime minister's been clear. Yesterday, the president was clear. There are things that need to happen before these negotiations get started. One is we're talking about how to get the weapons to the Ukrainians so that they can continue this fight, so they continue this successful counteroffensive that they are winning. They're winning again. They won around Kyiv in the beginning, and they're winning around Kharkiv right now. So they have the momentum. And there are other things that the Ukrainians say they need. They need punishment for the Russians to be sure that they are punished for this. They need reparations from the Russians. The Ukrainians have made it very clear they're not interested in neutrality. That had been on the table at one point before. The prime minister mentioned these earlier negotiations. After Bucha, after Irpin, after Kharkiv, after Izum, there's no talk of neutrality. There's no talk of negotiations until the Russians leave. So yes, Kristen, I think it's realistic over time to get all the Russians out of Ukraine.
Admiral Stavridis, final word to you. What is your take on this? And as Ambassador Taylor says, Ukraine has the momentum right now. Is it too much to say that they're winning the war right now? How would you characterize this moment?
I think it is too much to say they're winning the war, but they have certainly turned the tables on the Russians. And we're kind of in phase 3, if you will. Phase 1, the Russians failed to take Kyiv. Phase 2, the Russians go back to a static defensive line, but they take Mariupol. Phase 3, the Ukrainians are on the march. Having said that and applauding it, I think it's going to be a very tall military order to drive the Russians out, particularly of Crimea. And we ought to do all we can to give the Ukrainians the tools so they can bring themselves to that negotiating table in the strongest possible way, Kristen.
All right. Well, it's such a fantastic conversation. Admiral Stavridis and Ambassador Taylor, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.